At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
This episode is brought to you by FX's The Beauty Official Podcast. Join host Evan Ross Katz on the official podcast for FX's hottest new series, The Beauty, taking you behind the scenes with its amazing stars as they discuss the show's most jaw-dropping moments. Featuring Evan Peters, Anthony Ramos, Jeremy Pope, Ashton Kutcher, Rebecca Hall, Bella Hadid, Meghan Trainor, Isabella Rossellini, Jessica Alexander, and Ari Grainer. Search FX's The Beauty wherever you listen to podcasts.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
This is Jay Scott, and you are listening to The Hook, the ultimate rock community podcast. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. Good day to everybody. It's in the middle of the summer. It's all hot and sticky all over the place. Hope everyone's staying nice and cool and enjoying all their barbecues and their summer so far. Today's guest we have is Crash Crafton, all the way from Kansas. What's going on, Crash?
Very little. Just trying to stay out of the heat.
Yeah, you and me both. It's getting ridiculous out there. I think all over the states, it's like above average temps, or the heat index is like over 100. It's crazy.
We've actually hit a cold front here the last 2 days. It's been nice. It's only been in the mid 80s.
Okay. All right.
But it was up there 105 with like heat indexes 110 plus.
Yeah. I mean, we had a little bit of a cool down today, but it's supposed to get back up to the higher temps towards the end of the week. Hopefully the AC doesn't break down. But hey, anyway.
I'm into that.
Yeah. But as we begin each podcast, whenever we have a guest that has never appeared on the show before, we always ask the same question. And that's the essence of the show. Just like every rock song has a hook that sucks you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, a performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What's your moment? What hooked you?
I can't pinpoint it to just one. I can probably pinpoint it to a time. I mean, I can remember when I was 3 or 4, my parents always had music playing in the house, especially my mom. And I was just transfixed with like Elvis and Richie Valens and like John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater Revival. And I remember she got me one of those little, like, I don't know, Tiger record players. And I think it was for my 4th birthday. She gave me 45s, and one of them was like Elvis Jailhouse Rock, and then Richie Valens La Bamba had Donna on the B side. I remember that. And then Creedence Clearwater Revival's Fortunate Son. And so that's really what led me down my path. And then I had a brother who's 6 years older and a sister who is 8 years older than me. So between my parents and then hearing what my brother and sister were listening to, it's just been a lifelong addiction.
So where did it go after Elvis, Richie Valens, and CCR? You know, how did you evolve into music? What was next?
What was next was what my brother and sister were listening to, which was what was popular at the time there in the 80s, the mid 80s, late 80s, which, like, my sister liked everything from Metallica to Duran Duran. My brother was more into, it was kind of weird. Like, I can remember, what was it? Guns N' Roses Live at the Ritz in like 87, 88.
Yeah.
I think the MTV special. I remember he recorded it on VHS and then dubbed it off onto cassette And at that time, I was big into playing baseball. And he would set the house speakers in the window of our house. And we had like this big open field across from the house. There was like an open lot. And I would practice baseball over there. He would hit balls to me, and I was a third baseman. And he would put the speakers in the windows of the house. And we would listen to Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and all the quote unquote hair bands of the time, I guess you could say, Poison, this, that, and the other. And so, I went down that path, all the 80s bands I was big into and still love to this day. Poisons and the Motleys and the Skid Row and Warrants. And
yeah, that was, an interesting time back then. I've had this conversation with a few people who've been on the show about the 80s. I always summarize the 80s in three parts, right? The first part of the 80s, like 80 to like 83, 82, was really raw. There was a lot of bands coming over from the UK and Europe. The bands that were just coming out of LA at the time were really raw. You look at the first Rat EP or the first Motley record or Quiet Riot, really kind of a swagger. You look at the stuff coming from the UK with Maiden and Saxon, Priest, who'd been out for a while in Europe and in the States, with Unleashed in the East and British Steel. We're starting to gain a lot of momentum with Screaming for Vengeance. And then I always say that moment when Motley Crue released the video for Home Sweet Home and the back photo of Theater of Pain really changed everything in the 80s in terms of how bands sounded, because everybody had to have a power ballad after that, and how everybody looked. So everybody had to have mascara and hairspray and wear women's clothing after that. And then the late 80s into the early 90s, bands really kind of became a parody of themselves. Like bands started to get signed based on what they looked like instead of how they played. You had bands that were appearing in magazines that you never heard a song from, but they looked the part. They looked great. So I remember how that evolved over those 10 years, over that decade. There really was a big shift, at least a couple times during the 80s. You think back of the early parts of MTV to the middle part of MTV in that decade, towards the end where bands were just like, you'd watch, I remember like in 89, 90 watching Headbangers Ball on a Saturday, and these bands would come on, and you really started to not know the difference between one and the other.
I never thought of that, the whole correlation between the Motley Theater of Pain and Home Sweet Home video. That's a very, very, very good point. I never thought of that.
Well, when you think about it, no band really had that power ballad. I mean, of course, you had Dokken with Alone Again, and I'm trying to think of another band that had that signature ballad. I mean, you could say Journey, but Journey was more top 40. Journey was more, mainstream radio. For a hard rock band, when you think of where Motley Crue came from with the Too Fast for Love record and then the Shout at the Devil, and then all of a sudden they've got this song Home Sweet Home, and then what followed that, I think maybe Scorpions before Home Sweet Home had Still Lovin' You off of Love at First Sting. But it really wasn't prominent, because then every band started to have that power ballad. And then every band started to have two power ballads on the record. So it really changed. I always say that if Dokken released Alone Again after Home Sweet Home, they would have been much bigger. It's just,
you're probably right. I hadn't thought about that.
Well, on today's show, you and I have discussed a lot over on Twitter through direct message, and one of our favorite artists we have in common is Richie Kotzen.
Oh, yeah.
Who was kind of in the tail end of that rock movement in the 80s and the early 90s when he replaced C.C. DeVille and Poison with what album was that? Was it the Flesh and Blood album?
When Richie came in, Richie did the Native Tongue.
Native Tongue, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but CC's last studio album was Flesh and Blood.
That's right. So he did Native Tongue, and he wrote the big hit off that album, which was Stand. Didn't last very long because the music industry was changing, and Poison themselves, after that record, more or less went away for a while. But Richie kept playing. Richie kept doing his studio work in his studio albums, and he became really big in Europe and Japan and South America. Unfortunately, not until the Winery Dogs released their debut record, really did not garner much appreciation from music fans, rock music in general until that first record. What is it about Richie that hooked you on him?
Well, got to go back to it would have been his actually second studio album that he did for Shrapnel Records in 1990, which would have been Fever Dream, which was his first ever vocal album. At the time, my sister was married to a musician, and he was always giving me crap about, liking Poison and this, that, and the other. He was a musician, and he was big into, he liked that stuff too, but he also liked a lot of different blues artists and this, that, and the other. And he was always just trying to turn me on to other stuff. And he gave me the cassette to Fever Dream. And I really liked it. And of course, I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And then his next album, Richie's next album, was Electric Joy, which was another instrumental. And I never really, to this day, I don't really care for instrumental music. I appreciate it. And at the time, like, Poison was my favorite band when I was a kid. Don't hold that against me, but, they were. Lo and behold, everything goes down CC and Richie joins. And I'm like, wait, that's the guy from the Fever Dream record. Then he was on the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey soundtrack. And I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And then Native Tongue came out. I love that record. It's actually my favorite Poison record.
Mine too.
And then what happened with Poison, happened. And then he put out, in 1994, he put out the Motherhead's Family Reunion record. And I was in a group home at the time, back in 1994, and I remember one of the staff members took me over to a neighboring town that had a record store, and they had ordered that record in, or the CD in for me. And I remember putting it in, and it was unlike anything I had heard. I mean, it had, the rock, and it had the soul and the R&B and the blues influences. Oh, it's really diverse, and I was like, wow. Since the Motherhead's record, Richie's been my all-time favorite artist. That record is just, it's my Led Zeppelin 4. He's my Beatles, whatever you want to say, my Kiss. Richie Kotzen's my favorite artist or group of all time. And so, I remember having to buy all his stuff from Japan there in the mid to late 90s into the early 2000s. And that was like $40 a CD. Couldn't get arrested in America, And like you said, it wasn't until the Winery Dogs when he, finally started getting some notoriety. That's how I got turned on to him, was through the ex-brother-in-law back in like 1991. I can't remember exactly when he gave me that cassette.
The interesting
background 1991.
The interesting thing about Richie was he started out on the Shrapnel record label with Mike Varney, with all the shredders, the Jason Beckers, the Marty Friedmans, the Tony McAlpines. He was phenomenal at that. If you listen to some of that early stuff, he completely rips. But what I appreciate about Richie is how he's continued to grow as a guitar player and the depth of his playing. When you think about the soul that he has in his playing, how he plays, how he hits the strings, in my opinion, and I've said this to others before, there is no other guitar player making new music today that is better than Richie. I would have to agree. Yeah, I just saw the Raconteurs last week with Jack White, great guitar player. He's got a lot of energy on stage. No way. Richie Kotzen just completely blows the doors off of him. The depth and the willingness to evolve, and going from, the Winery Dogs record, which is really a hard rock record. I know the second one's a little bit more progressive than the first, to his solo stuff. When you hear Venom, and then the one before that, Riot, yeah. And you hear, even Riot is a great example, right? Riot is very progressive, and in the way he plays, and then it goes into the chorus, and it goes right into like this R&B type of feel chorus, and it's like you've got this shredding going on, you've got this progressive music into R&B, back into progressive, and it really is what Richie Kotzen is all about. He's a very, very complex guitar player, but it sounds so kick-ass.
He's so diverse. Like, one record is not the same as the next, and so on and so forth. But yet they all still sound like him.
I love that. I love when an artist takes chances. I love when an artist is constantly evolving. Not too many people can do that. Richie, with his popularity being more of a niche in more than anything, you know, with fans. He's probably allowed to do that a lot more than many other artists, where he knows he's making music for himself that the fans will appreciate, but he's doing it for him and what sounds good to him and what he wants to do. So he's always pushing the envelope. He's always willing to change. And I feel that's really what sets him apart from others.
Yeah, I can't recall a time of him chasing a trend with popular music. It's always been, you know, his style, and he wears his influences on his sleeve, but it's uniquely his, no matter what it is. And you can always tell a Richie Kotzen composition, a vocal and guitar playing.
Well, he talks about in interviews that Mother's Head reunion album, how he got a lot of pushback from Geffen Records at the time with what he wanted to do. And I think that was on that was on one of the interviews that you did with him, how he talks about how he wanted to use his wife at the time to sing backup vocals. He wanted to do a few things different with the arrangements, and he got a lot of pushback. There was controversy with the producer who was doing it. Can you dive into that? Like, what did you learn about that process?
Well, besides the fact that Geffen seemed like a total nightmare. Well, it wasn't necessarily just Geffen. It was basically just John Klaudner, which was the A&R guy that signed him. Like he had said in the interview, you know, he had his wife on, you know, the demos as far as the background vocals. And I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like, "No woman will be on one of my records," you know, meaning John Klaudner said that. I think it had something to do with the problems he had with Cher or somebody, but he made him replace the background vocal, like brought in Timothy B. Schmidt and a couple other people. And I think Deanna, his ex-wife, that was on that record, I think she's still on it. Klaudner may not know that at the time, but he was just really frustrated. They wanted him to be one thing, you know, coming off the whole Poison thing, and that's just not really what he was. He got a lot of blowback from Klaudner, basically, and then Klaudner jumped ship to Columbia, took Aerosmith with him, and then Geffen essentially just, I think what he said, they put out like 15,000 copies of that record and pulled the plug on it, and that was that. It sounded like it was just creatively a really frustrating time for him, button heads with Klaudner. You know, and there's a track on that record called "A Woman and a Man." Even I think it was his manager and his publisher at the time were like, I think he said, I'm paraphrasing, with something, "I really hope Geffen doesn't fuck this up," because they saw dollar signs with that song. And lo and behold, Geffen went and fucked it up. And it's an amazing, the notes he hits on that song are just spine chilling, I think, but they screwed it up. Only put out like 15 grand and just killed the record before it was even given a chance. I mean, there's no promotion for it other than the Motherheads video. After that, it was just dead in the water.
Now, he struggled to get out of his contract after that too, right?
No, they just dumped him.
Wasn't there some negotiating going on before they dumped him too? Like it wasn't as just like, okay, we're going to release 15,000 copies of the CD or record and then we're done with you. Like didn't they want to hang on to his rights for a bit, and he had to go and to kind of almost beg them to get out of it?
I don't, I'd have to go back and look. Mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily recalling, but I mean, if I remember right, I think, you know, they bought it out or something and sent him on his merry way. But like he doesn't have the rights to that record though, from what I understand, because I had said something to him or in the course of one of the interviews I did with him about, and it was right around the time that I did the 20th anniversary retrospective on that record. I said, what about, you know, re-releasing it, you know, bonus tracks and whatever else? And he said he didn't have the rights to the record.
So after the Mother's Head reunion album, he did a couple records on Shrapnel, the Intergalactic Fusion Experience, the album with Greg Howe, and then he did Wave of Emotion in 96, followed up by Something to Say, which are both great records as well. And you do see his songwriting evolving as well as his style of music. As he moved forward What Is in Bipolar Blues, which is the cover record where he did all the blues songs?
Yeah, it's got a few originals, but primarily it is a cover record. And What Is, I mean, a very introspective record because he was going through his divorce at that time when he's writing that. So a lot of that's really introspective and kind of dark. And I think that was another big leap as far as his songwriting goes, was that record.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 4 records that I think 4. Motherheads, then What Is, and then Slow, and then Into the Black were just big leaps, I think, as far as his songwriting and musicianship.
When did you first meet Richie?
First time I met him would have been in May of 2000. The first time I ever actually got to see him live was in March of 2009. And then I finally got to meet him. And that concert was out in Anaheim, California. And then I got to meet him in May of 2010 in Nashville with my friend Michelle, who lives down in Florida, who's also a super, super big Richie Kotzen fan as well. We had planned it. It was on my birthday or whatever, but he was playing at the Mercy Lounge, and she actually went to all the shows on that leg of the Peace Sign tour. She took vacation and followed him through that whole 2 or 3 week tour. Rented a car, traveled all over the East Coast.
Nice.
But we met up there in Nashville or whatever. That was the first time I got to meet him, was mid-May 2010.
Now, the Anaheim show that you went to, was that the one with Paul Gilbert and George Lynch?
Yep.
That's an incredible show.
That was the one I didn't know that they were jamming at the end. And I had a total cluster of a travel day from Kansas to LA. We had issues with the rent-a-car once we got, it was Orange County, John Wayne Airport. We got there and they were trying to screw us on our rental car. And so I got a hold of a buddy of mine that I grew up with out there in Long Beach. I want to go get him and pizza, go back to my hotel. Ended up getting TMZ to pull me out of there. And I had a friend of mine who was real good friends with Anaheim. Like, she has since passed away, named Lori. Richie hit the stage, and she was real good friends with Richie. And she calls me and she's like, "Where the hell are you at?" I'm not a big, I appreciate what they do. I'm not a big Lynch or Anaheim fan. She had finally gotten a hold of Richie and told him, because Richie knew of me. They're playing. At that time, he had a forum. So I was like, you know what? So he knew of me through there, because he would get on there and answer questions with fans and stuff periodically. So he knew of me on there, but they didn't do meet and greets and stuff at that time. And so I was like, damn, I want to meet Richie. And she was trying to arrange it. And she finally got a hold of him after the show, I guess. So he came out looking for me. And I was gone. And he's like, I can't find him. And he can't miss me because I'm 6'4", 300 pounds. I'm a big dude. And so she calls and she's like, "Where the hell are you at?" I'm like, "I'm back at the hotel. Why?" And she's like, "Well, Richie went out looking." And I'm like, son of a bitch. But so I had to wait another year, but it was worth it because it was on my birthday. And that was the show there at the Mercy Lounge. And my 2 favorite all-time artists are Richie Kotzen and John Corabi. And lo and behold, I'm sitting there. Me and Michelle are watching the show. Michelle's like, "Hey, who's that at the bar?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I looked over there, some guy at the bar in a ball cap. And she's like, "I don't know who that is." She goes, "I think that's John Corabi." And I'm like, I know John Corabi because I worked with his band Union and stuff, and I'm a huge fan. This guy was clean shaven, had a ball cap on, didn't look like he had any long hair. And I'm like, "It's not John Corabi. I know John Corabi." She's like, "No, seriously, I think that's John Corabi." So I'm like, "Screw it, I'm going to go up and get a water." And lo and behold, I walk up to the bar right next to the guy, and he turns. I'm like, "Fuck, it is John Corabi." So it was kind of cool. I get to spend, my birthday with my 2 favorite artists, of all time. And many, many, many Jack and Cokes were shared, and a lot of laughs that night. So it was cool. And I essentially got to interview him that night, but it was off the record. Like after the show, he came out and sat with us for the hour or so, me and Michelle and Corabi, and, we sat around, drank and bullshitted. And I essentially got to 20 questions.
It's interesting that being that they're good friends, they've never done anything musically together.
Yeah, that's what because I was like, I said something to Richie. I was like, "Oh, John Corabi's here." And he's like, "Where?" And I was like, over there. And so, they went over, shook hands and caught up or whatever. And I was talking to Richie and I was like, I didn't even know you knew him. He's like, oh yeah. Richie said some of the time they've always wanted to collaborate, but the planets never aligned just right. Their schedules are always so wacky or whatever. And I was like, oh, that would be freaking cool.
You've actually sat down and you've done 3 interviews with him?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's 3 or 4. Yeah.
One was the Mother's Head reunion anniversary interview where he talks about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it is 3.
What is it about Richie when you meet him? I mean, what's he like as a person? I mean, he does come off with when you watch his YouTube videos, he does some of the dry humor things and his Instagram posts, very, very funny.
He is very, very dry humor, quick-witted. Some people don't know how to take him. Like I've heard people at the same place I was at meet him and God, he's kind of a dick. And it's like, he's dry. Those type of people, you have to have prior experience with people like that. And then you realize that's just how they are.
Right.
But very, very nice guy, funnier than hell. And just a very nice guy. But he's soft-spoken, he's quiet and dry is the best way to put it.
My favorite YouTube video is the one where he does the interview while he's walking through the hills.
Yeah.
And it's hysterical. And I had to watch it a couple times because the first time I watched it, I'm like, this isn't a joke. Like he's serious. And then you start to, if you watch it more than a couple times, you start to pick up on the little bits here and there that kind of give off that it's a bit. And it's funny. And then there's the one that he had to take down because his mother called him. And I've never seen that one. And he would do these skits or whatever on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever. And there was something that happened where his mother got all upset and she made him take the video down. I don't know what it was about, but he does a lot of those things,
I don't remember that one.
Yeah. And then, he does, there are bits with him and his wife where, they do an interview or, over Christmas or something. Yeah. It's just really good stuff. He's got a really good way about him that he doesn't take himself too serious.
Have you ever seen the video where he's getting tattooed after, like the day after wiping out playing basketball and his face is all cut up?
Yeah. And he's got like the tooth.
Yeah. The Billy Bob teeth in.
Yeah. He got the Billy Bob.
Yeah. Yeah. That's his mom in that video.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's
great.
Walking around kind of behind him. Yeah, that's his mom. He's talking about, Jack Daniels, and he's very romantic and banging broad stuff. And I'm like, that's his mom that's having to listen to this.
When we move through his solo career and we see the catalog that he has, and then he gets into the Winery Dogs, where he explodes. His popularity explodes as much as one's popularity can explode in this day and age. Right. I think the days of being the superstar stratosphere are gone forever, especially for an artist like Richie, who's already been in the game for decades. But he explodes in the fashion that now people are starting to be like, wow, who's this guy playing guitar with Billy Sheehan and Mike Portnoy? Who's this guy singing? Uber talented. Then you start to go back and review his solo stuff, and you start to realize, wow, this guy's been making music for a long time, and it's really good stuff. And it's, as you're excited to explore all those things, all that material, you also have like a sense of sadness that stuff that good is really unknown, underground. And you're like, with all the crap that's being played out there today, where, there's 30 producers hooked on to one song and everything is overproduced and just auto-tuned and pro-tooled the crap out of. You've got a guy like
writers.
Right, yeah. And then you've got a guy like Richie, who's more or less playing all the instruments on his record, singing and playing guitar at a very high level. It's like, wow, why isn't an artist, and there are many other artists out there like him, but why isn't someone like him known by everybody? It's baffling and it's frustrating as a fan.
I think he's talked about it in multiple interviews with people, is a lot of those people that are in the stratosphere or whatever, the pop stars or whatever, they play the game with the record companies, sell their souls to them, and he won't do it. And, now with the advent of the internet, like he's talked about elsewhere, since Into the Black, he can control his career. He's in control of everything. So he doesn't need the A&R guy and big machine behind him. I think he's better off for it.
I agree.
But he wouldn't play the game. I mean, there's other stories I've heard, like I think it was on the song Rust or whatever. It was Something to Say record. Some A&R guy just hated that song, so he didn't sign him. And that was, from what I understand, for a major label here in America.
And that's a great song.
Have that on.
It's a phenomenal song. Wasn't that originally off the Wilson Hawk record?
No, Rust is on Something to Say.
I'm trying to think of what we can go down the road of the Wilson Hawk record. You and I have discussed this too. If Richie does ever listen to this podcast or whatever, Richie, please put that out on CD. Just do a limited run, sell it at your shows on tour, but that material needs a physical format.
I agree.
Oh,
I don't have a record player anymore, but I'd buy it on record too.
Such a great
album. Buy a
album.
record player. Yeah, I remember when it first came out. Like, it just appeared. The song "Everything Good" came out, the video, which is one of my all-time favorite songs of his. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, there's this Wilson Hawk record, and I'm like, okay. And then I read the backstory on it, where it's, between him and Richie Zito and some background musicians, for the horns and everything, and like that. And I'm like, okay, getting in touch with his R&B and soul roots. Nothing too far off the beaten path. It's not like he's doing death metal. I was like, okay. And I remember buying it, downloading it. And I was just like, I mean, it needs to be on a physical. Such an amazing record. And I wish he would do a whole album of just piano tunes, like piano ballads or piano rockers. But he's such an amazing pianist and keyboardist.
Oh, yeah,
too.
Absolutely.
There's that vibe on the Wilson Hawk record, but that album's, I'd probably say it's in my top 5 is all my all-time favorite records of his. I had to choose.
Yeah, I mean,
it would be hard to do because there's so many.
I saw him on the Salting Earth tour. I saw him on the Cannibals and the Salting Earth tour, I've seen him with the Winery Dogs like 3 times. I just saw him this past May in St. Charles, Illinois. There's a song on Salting Earth called Meds where it's piano and it's keyboard. It's just a phenomenal song. And during that tour, a lot of his, he played guitar, obviously, maybe half the show or maybe 60% of the show, but the other part was on the keys. He was playing the keys, and just an amazing piano player. When he does the Winery Dogs and he does whatever song he's going to play that night, he'll sit down with the guitar strap around his neck, in the back, and he'll start playing the piano, and then he'll go into a guitar solo. So he's singing. He's got this incredible voice, and he's playing guitar, and he's a masterful guitar player, and he's just as good as a piano player. I remember my buddy at the show turned to me and said, "That guy's an asshole." And I go, "Why? What did he do?" He's like, "Dude, the guy is awesome at guitar, sings awesome, he's got a great voice, and he plays piano like he does. That dude's an asshole." Yeah. And I started laughing too. It really is a testament to him of just how, didn't he start out as a piano player, right? His first instrument that he learned was the piano. And then he heard Ace Frehley play guitar, and then he wanted to play guitar. If somebody,
this was what turned him on to turned him in the wrong direction, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So if somebody was listening to this podcast and wanted to check out Richie outside of the Winery Dogs and outside of the first record, Mother's Head Family Reunion, what?
Oh, dang it. You make it hard for me.
So I know Mother's Head Family Reunion is your favorite Richie Kotzen record. And I know that's what you would recommend to people if they wanted to check him out. And there are those that are familiar with him because of the Winery Dogs. We know that. So if you were to recommend a record, if someone was saying, well, I'm going to check out Richie, which album should I check out? I know what mine would be, but what would be yours?
Wow. I'm like sitting here flipping through his discography in my mind. Wow. And this is, actually, this isn't going to be a cop-out just because it has the name in it. But it would actually be the return of the Motherhead's Family Reunion record, or Go Faster. And it's not a cop-out.
Yeah, I know, I got you.
I think because, like, he's got the song Chase It on there, which is a gorgeous ballad. So you have that with piano. So you have that aspect, of his playing, which I totally love. And then, you got like Go Faster and...
Yeah, Fold Again. You've got Faith.
You're Crazy. Oh, shoot.
It also has my all-time favorite Richie song on there, too. That he never plays live. He's never, far as I know, he's never played it live. And that's Dust.
Yep.
Oh, Dust is incredible.
I would go with Go Fast. I'll go with the Go Faster title.
Okay.
When I bought it, it was Return of the Motherhead's Reunion. That was just a Japanese thing to sell more albums, but because he had a full band and stuff on it. But God, there's so many. But I would probably go with that one because I think it captures all his strengths. Yeah, I'd go with that one.
The song Dust gives me chills every time I hear it. The guitar work is incredible. The hook is incredible. His singing is awesome. Whenever I see him live, I'm like, just play Dust. Just do it. He's never played it. I don't know. He's got so many great songs in his catalog, and he plays the songs that he wants to play, obviously. When he plays songs like Fear live, and he does the guitar break in the middle where he just goes off into a journey that you have no idea what he's going to do. The guitar playing is just magic on that live. One of these days, I'm going to see him and he's going to play Dust, and I will be forever satisfied.
Do you have the album Something to Say from Japan?
No, I don't have the Japan version.
Okay. This is ironic because my friend Michelle, and you know what's going on in my personal life and everything, but she got Richie to do one of those cameo things for me the other day.
Oh, really?
To cheer me, to cheer me up.
Cool.
It was a total surprise. I woke up one morning and she's like, she goes, check this out. And there's this really huge long link. And I was like, she doesn't never send me spam, so I'm not worried about it. So I click on it and it was a video from Richie to me.
That's
Paradox
awesome.
is probably, besides A Woman and a Man, my favorite Richie tune. I love that tune. It's totally unlike anything he's ever done. And I wish I had it uploaded on my phone so I could send you the MP3 of it. But I don't. I got the CD, but I don't have a CD player right now.
Now that's only on the Japanese version?
Right, because all the US versions of it and Wave of Emotion, for some reason they totally screwed up the track listing and taken songs off and added songs that were from an EP that came, a 4-song EP that came out in Japan after Wave of Emotion. Mm-hmm. And it had 2 brand new songs on it. Time's Gonna Tell and I'm drawing a blank on the second song. Anyways, they've taken songs off of both Wave of Emotion and Something to Say. Whoever's got the rights to release them in the U.S., And originally it was done by Spitfire Records in 1999 or 2000. And they took off Paradox and put on one of those bonus tracks from that EP for some reason. Totally messed up the track listing. The track listings are out of order. So I can't even listen to those releases because it's not how I remember them. Because if I listen to them, I'll be like, what the hell is this song? Rust is supposed to be next. Anyways, there's a song on there. It's called Paradox. It wasn't even a bonus track on Something to Say. It was just the last track on the record. And
check it out.
It's totally unique. You can't find it online anywhere. It's weird. Evidently, Michelle asked him to sing or play some of that song for me. And he's like, I don't even remember writing that. I don't even know what song she's talking about. He's like, so sorry, buddy. Can't play it for you because I don't even remember it.
Well, isn't that the running joke? I've seen some interviews with the Winery Dogs, and they'll be talking, Billy Sheehan and Mike Portnoy will be talking, and Richie won't remember what they're talking about.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think it's a joke. I couldn't even imagine how many songs, just besides what he's released, what's laying in his vault.
Right.
He's so prolific as far as all that goes, or he used to be. Side career as a contractor and a construction worker gets in the way of his love for music now. Or not gets in his way, but his other passion.
He's just did his deck a couple years ago, and every time he does a video and he posts it on Instagram and he's working with a saw, I just cringe. I'm like, just don't do anything to your fingers. It's like,
Yep. Yeah. Just like, no, you can hire somebody to do that. He's always like, I don't remember that.
My album that I would recommend to people would be 24 Hours.
Oh, that's a hell of a choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's got Help Me, which is one of his signature solo songs. Love is Blind, which I think is a phenomenal.
Now, would you go with the Help Me non-bass synth version or the Help Me with bass synth?
Well, I didn't know there were two versions.
Yeah, do you hear that buzz that's in that song?
Yeah.
Like when it first came out, when that record first came out, I got it, obviously. And I was like, what in the hell is this buzz? Because I had it on my home stereo. I was pissed. I was like, I got a damn faulty CD. And so I put it in my car stereo, same thing. Pissed off. So I ordered another one. And I get it, and I'm like, what, this buzz? And then, it was on that one. He had his forum up at the time, and I'm like, what is the deal with this damn? And I did a review of it. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell this buzz is on the song, but it needs to go. And there was a bunch of us on the forum were like, yeah, it's kind of annoying. And he actually put out a single where he took out the bass. It's a bass synth. And he took it out.
I'll have to pay attention next time I listen to the album.
Well, it's on the album, but he's got I don't know, maybe you can go on CD Baby. He might still have that single up there where it's called the NS version where it's no synth.
Well, I know he did the compilation record, the Essential Richie Kotzen. So I wonder which version that he used on that, because I know Help Me's on that album too. But Love is Blind is a great song. Stop Me is another great track. Bad Situation.
Twist of Fate.
Oh, yeah, Twist of Fate. Tell Me That It's Easy. I don't know why. Just a complete awesome album. I love that record. I love the Go Faster record as well. I mean, my favorite Richie songs on that one. Peace Sign is a great album.
There's a funny story behind that. When I saw him in 2010, he had put out, that was on that for that tour. And the song We're All Famous off Peace Sign, always thought it had like a really catchy, like Sly and the Family Stone vibe to it. And I remember we were sitting there, me, him, Michelle, and Crappie. I was like, are you going to put out another video or anything off this record? Well, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. And I'm like, well, I have this like video treatment in my mind for We're All Famous. Could I just pitch it to you? And he's like, sure. And it was like him and the band dressed up like in the 70s, like Sly and the Family Stone, like big pros and like big neon behind them. Like, big, I don't know where I got it. It was like a big neon rainbow and then like neon sign with "We're all famous." It flashes when the chorus comes on and shit. And he's like, "I think you need to stop drinking." And I was like, ever since I heard that song, I'm not that creative. Like, usually I can't envision stuff like that, but ever since I heard that song, it was like, it just had this big, like, disco dance, neon, big fro, bell bottom visual to it. Like Flying the Family Stone disco thing or something.
I need to revisit that song.
I love it. It's I don't know. It just has that vibe to me, I guess.
And Into the Black is another album that just knocks me on my ass. Think of, You Can't Save Me and Fear. Fear, when he does that live, when he plays Fear live, and there's videos of it, he goes into another world when he starts playing. When him and Dylan, who plays bass for him, is just absolutely incredible, man. I mean, it's just, I can't say, hearing the song on the studio version does not do that song justice. When you hear it live, it is a completely different song.
Right. Have you ever seen it's on his YouTube channel, it might still be, that like he used to do these basement jams with Dylan and Mike.
Yeah.
And they do Fear as one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They did, I think, The Shadow and a couple other ones. But yeah, him and Dylan lock in and he gets in that, I don't know, trance, I guess you could say. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah, and it's just, they play off of each other so well when they do that live. It's a definite highlight whenever he's on tour, whenever he's playing. And that's the thing too. I mean, you could go see Richie when he does his U.S. leg. He usually does at least one a year, doing a few. Then he'll go to Europe or South America, or he'll go somewhere, and then he'll come back and do another one. Now I think he just finished the European tour. He's headed over to South America, so he's probably going to be done for the rest of the year after he finishes this. And the rumor is that they're going to probably do write another Winery Dogs record, either at the end of this year, early part of next year. But to see him live, it's not going to cost you more than $25, and it's going to be in a small venue where you're pretty much 10 to 20 feet away from him. And I'm telling you, it's the best. It's one of the best things you'll ever see live, because you just get mesmerized by his playing. His band is just, Mike Bennett and Dylan Wilson are just phenomenal players in their own right. I highly, highly recommend anyone that's listening to check out Richie Kotzen live outside the Winery Dogs. Of course, when you go see the Winery Dogs, you're talking about three of the best musicians at their craft, drums, bass, and guitar, than there is. I mean, that is like the top of the line, or very near top of the line. But Dylan Wilson and Mike Bennett are no slouches either. They are phenomenal players. No. $25, $30 with tax and the stupid fees that they charge you. You can go to a small club, small venue, and you can watch the best guitar player making music today. And it is, he won't do any of his Winery Dog stuff. I don't think he's ever done any of his, and the solo stuff that I've seen him, he does not. But there's so much good material in his solo catalog that he doesn't need to play that. I saw him.
I just wish he would go back farther.
Yeah,
he won't, because he doesn't remember the stuff.
Well,
actually, I mean, I understand the reason why he won't, but it's not who he is now. He doesn't feel in touch with that.
And I can understand that. And I get it, because he is an artist that does strive to be different, and does push the envelope. I do understand that. When you talk about his new stuff, like Riot or Venom, that just was released, totally different than what he did on Salting Earth, and totally different than he did in Cannibals. We got a little bit into the black, but when you talk about that record with You Can't Save Me, and we got off on the tangent, Fear, but also Doing What the Devil Says to Do, Till You Put Me Down, Sacred Ground, Living in Bliss, My Angel, Your Lies is another great song. I mean, just a Phenomenal record.
He did a show. They filmed half of it, which I don't know why they didn't film the other half. I think it might have been in Germany. But anyway, they uploaded like half the show. It just came on the other day, and the version he does of Doing What the Devil Says to Do, I don't know if he went like off into one of them fear trances or what, but it was probably the best version of him doing that song live I've heard in years. I'll have to send you the link when I get off the phone. But I remember it came on. I'm like, cool, he's doing What the Devil Says to Do. And at the end of it, I had to like back it up and rewatch it because I was just like, holy crap. He went off.
Yeah, no, he
was feeling it.
He does that. Even when you go into like the 40 Deuce project, which I love that record. And I know there's a story behind that record. Like it was recorded in like the hills or something like that after a party, or it was like with these Japanese punk rockers or artists or whatever. And it was thrown together very quickly, as the story goes, or what I remember hearing about it. But that's got I was just listening to that a couple weeks ago, and that's got some really, really, really good material as well.
Yeah, I think they were called Bomb Child. That's what they were called.
The group or with Richie? I think they were called 40 Deuce, though, right?
Well, yeah, they were called 40 Deuce, but the three guys that were in that band had a band that before that, and that's how Richie discovered them or whatever. They had a band called Bomb Child, which is like a punk rocker band. Yeah, I can't remember how it went. Like my friend Lori was real close with Richie around that time, and I remember her telling me how it went. But it's been, that was 10 years.
No, record. He did the creation with Stanley Clark, which I have, which I think it's, I don't know.
Vertu,
which is great. Different.
Yeah.
He's Simmons, Gene's songs on.
Gene Simmons' Asshole.
Yeah. Gene Simmons.
Yeah, because a lot of that record was recorded at his commercial studio that Richie had at the time.
Then there's the Mr. Big album that he did after Paul Gilbert.
I remember there is a 98. Well, in 98 he put out the What Is record, which actually has Billy and Pat on it because they co-wrote Lockout with him.
Right.
But and then I remember hearing he joined Mr. Big, and I thought, oh shit, here we go with the whole hair band crap again. The press is gonna be all over this, like stink on, what. But and then I remember getting that record, and I was like, it kicks off with what, Electrified.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then goes into Static, and I was like, all right, this is good. I liked Mr. Big before. I was just like, him and Paul, granted, they both came from the shredder school, but I wonder how Richie's going to fit. Hopefully they're not just going to make him a hired gun and play what we want you to play,
Yeah.
And then, you get the CD and crack it open. There he is in the songwriting credits. You can definitely hear his influence on the record. Actually, on both records that he did, plus the Best of Ballads album that they did, where he did, I don't know, they did 2 or 3 new songs, and then they did several re-records.
Yeah, well, you can correlate the Poison record and the Mr. Big record. Both had their sound prior to Richie joining, and with Richie's impact, you can definitely hear that influence on both those albums. The only difference is one band had Paul Gilbert, who was just a phenomenal guitar player in his own right, and the other had C.C. DeVille. You're definitely upgrading, guitar playing with Poison, and to a sense with Mr. Big too. Paul Gilbert, although they're from the shredder school, they're both different style. I go back and I said it earlier in this podcast, the R&B, the soul playing that Richie has is so unique to what he does in the genre that he plays in. There's not a lot of players that are able to have that sound while shredding, while coming in and out of a solo like that. And it's just amazing to hear. I mean, the Cannibals record has a really heavy R&B feel to it. If there's one solo album that really does encapsulate the R&B influence that Richie has, it's the Cannibals record. There's moments on each solo record that haven't, but from beginning to end, I feel that album really, really does have that feel, that influence to it.
Yeah, that has another one of my favorite tunes of his, which is The Enemy.
Great song. Really good song.
I love that song.
And when I saw him with Winery Dogs a couple months ago, he looked like he was really enjoying himself up there with both Mike and Billy. I know when he not left, I don't want to say that, but when they went on hiatus after the Hot Streak album, he mentioned that he'd been a solo artist for such a long time that he wanted to get back to being just Richie for a bit and doing some material that, he had written for himself. And I think that's important because they really turned around a second record very quickly. It really didn't give Richie a chance to be his own artist at that point. I think he was craving for a break to do his own thing. Now that he has had it for the last couple of years, I think he is ready to get back with those guys and start writing some material. They look so in sync with each other, so much chemistry with those three guys. I do hope they release another record and do another tour because watching them play live is just incredible.
Yeah, I kind of like how they did that tour. There's really, there's nothing to promote. They really didn't do any press for it. They just went out and played, and you could tell by their interaction on stage and then with their social media, they seemed a lot looser than they had previously with the Hot Streak cycle, I guess would be the right word.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
They're recharged, re-energized. As much as I would rather have a Richie solo record, if you're going to do another Winery Dogs record first, that's fine because it's still Richie, but kind of hoping for maybe he's, got a solo album up his sleeve he hasn't said anything about, and then he'll do another Winery Dogs record.
Well, he's released 3 songs as singles, right? Over the last year and a half.
Yeah, The Damned, Riot, and Venom.
Yeah, and he had mentioned in an interview, I think, with Eddie Trunk, that just putting out the singles benefits him more at this time, I think he said, or was just kind of where he was at as an artist. And it's disappointing because I always like the CD. I always like the physical copy. So I hope there's more material. I think his plan originally was to release a single every couple of months or every month, and then when there's 10 released, then put out an album. So maybe that means he does have more material.
Yeah, I know he's been with the fires and the floods and everything that he had at his house. That kind of put a damper on getting anything done, but we'll see. I mean, he could, at the time when it came out, like the Wilson Hawk record, that came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. There was not even talk of it coming, and then next thing you know, boom, here's a new record, and everybody's like, what? Maybe he'll do that with a solo record. I don't know.
Yeah, we shall see.
Any Richie's good Richie, whether it's solo or with the Winery Dogs. I'm happy.
I agree 100%. The world is a better place when there is Richie Kotzen music to enjoy.
Amen and testify.
Well, let's end with that. It's been a great conversation, Crash. I really do appreciate you doing this. Always a great topic when talking about Richie. I could spend probably another hour or two talking about him. One of my favorite artists. I know he's one of yours, if not your favorite. But
he is. He's my Elvis.
He's great, and I make it a point to go see him every time he comes to Chicago in the area. I hope he comes again soon, either with himself or Winery Dogs. But I look forward to it nonetheless.
Yeah, and if he hears this, you need to come to Kansas once in a while.
Yeah, come on, Richie, for Crash. Do it for Crash. As Matt Dillon said in The Outsiders, do it for Johnny. Do it for Crash.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he'll just laugh.
Well, all right, man. Okay. I appreciate it. We'll talk again soon. And
all right, sounds good.
Once again, this is Jay Scott, and you were listening to The Hook, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. You all have a great day. Thank you.
Ah.